Today I'm in Vienna, although it's pretty gray, which isn't very exciting, but I'm spending the weekend here. And I want to make a video on what I think is a bit of a hot take, but I think people should stop trying to be Pieter Levels, or however you say his name, although no disrespect to the guy, I think he's really cool. And for context on what I do, I've been running a software company for the past 3 years, a software development agency for the past 3 years. I've been documenting every day for the past year. You know, I've had some comments recently which asked about my opinion on indie hacking, so I wanted to speak on that. Basically, long story short is, it's not necessarily what you think it is. Pieter Levels has done very well for himself, and that's because basically he built one product that did really, really well, that was super, super useful for people, and that blew him up. He has like 1 million followers, and what happens now is every time he posts something, there's immediate distribution to it. And so he's been building in public for a long, long time. Basically, I've seen a lot of developers, obviously, through my circles, but also I have a friend of mine who lives in Lisbon. He's an indie hacker, and he was telling me like how he used to try and copy what Pieter Levels did, like step by step, exactly what he does. The thing that most people miss is just that he built a product that was fundamentally really, really useful, that blew up, and that propelled the success of a bunch of his other ventures. Products need distribution. I've spoken on this before, but like just building a good product in and of itself will not make you a success. He was building in public, and he built something that was really, really useful. And when he clicked with the market and he built something that just solved a really good pain point, and that there wasn't a good solution out there for, that's when that product blew up and did really well, and that built him a bunch of distribution. And then when he launches new products, he immediately has hundreds of thousands of people that he can send to like test this thing and whatever. I think a lot of developers don't realize is when they try and build a SaaS or whatever, if you don't have any marketing dollars to put into distribution, you're gonna have a really hard time getting that validated and testing it. And the other part is, to have a product that goes really viral, like you need to solve a problem super, super well, and it needs to be super specific and resonate super well with a specific audience. So like, I think if you have high frequency with a problem, right, and you solve something for yourself, that's usually when it's gonna go quite well. Like if you build something that you are going to use yourself because it solves your own problem, and you find yourself using that on a daily basis, you've probably hit something pretty good. But actually doing that is surprisingly hard. Building a good product is not that easy in terms of like finding a good problem to solve. That's something that takes time to find product market fit. But if just building a bunch of stuff in the meantime, if you keep looking at trying to solve different problems, if you build like 5 different apps at once, it's unlikely that you're going to get really intimate with one specific problem, right? You're not going to understand a problem space really, really well. Now, if you keep iterating in the same problem space, I think maybe, you know, you'll eventually find something. But it's just to say, like, people who are just trying to copy what Pieter Levels is doing, they're copying what he's doing today, not what he did to get to where he is, which is actually build something that was really, really useful. A lot of the build in public, like indie hacker space, a lot of people end up building products to help them ship faster because that's what they were trying to do. Mark Liu built ship fast. He built the product that was ship fast, and basically he's just selling to a bunch of indie hackers that they should try and build more stuff. And the thing that he's selling is a product to help them build faster, but you'll see that that's where he makes most of his money, not off the other things that he actually built, which are what people are using his product to build, if that makes sense. Like, they are spending money to build faster, but that's not where Mark Liu made his money necessarily, or whatever. I think it's just a caveat. Indie hacking, I think, is great to learn. It's fun, and it's a hobby. It's not to make money, though. At least I don't think it's the best way to make money, at least. One of the nicer ways to start is, obviously, I did the agency route, and the reason I did that is because it's cash flow first. And so you only build what you get paid to do, rather than building something and then discovering later that nobody wants to pay you for it, which kind of sucks, because it's like, imagine you put hundreds of hours into building something, and then you publish it, and then nobody uses it. The return on those hours in terms of dollar amount has been very, very low. In an agency, there are downfalls too, for sure, but at least you will learn how to build stuff while getting paid. That was a kind of an important thing for me, because basically I didn't want to go hungry. That's just my 2 cents on it. But indie hacking, I think, can be great fun. It can be super good as a hobby to learn how to use different tools, like go out there, try things, absolutely. Now, just don't live under the assumption that it's gonna like make you extremely wealthy. I think the most successful people have usually just done one thing for an extraordinarily long period of time, and focus can take you very, very far. If you want to do indie hacking and you want to make a bunch of money from a bunch of different products, you need a big distribution base first. And that's going to come from marketing hours and social media and all this stuff, which is a game of its own. Like, it's a full-time job of its own. To learn how to post all the time. You know, even like, for example, these videos, I post a lot, but in order to do that, I need help. I can't do it by myself. I have editors, I have people who help me behind the scenes to put all of this together, and that costs money. You either need a lot of time, or you need to put some like resources, I'm talking cash, into getting other people's time to help you toward that goal. But it's not by default an easy thing. Like marketing is a whole, obviously it's a whole industry, it's a whole department in companies. And so figuring out how to do marketing is a challenge of its own. And indie hacking is, I think, more of a programmer's hobby, not a career path. That's just my 2 cents. And I apologize if this pisses some people off, but it is what it is. If you want to make money by building tech products, just make sure that you solve something really, really useful. And I think the reason why I think the agency route can be good, at least to start, even if you want to later build a product, is like, if people wouldn't pay you to build that product in the first place, then maybe it's not enough of a painful problem for people to pay a subscription for either. That's the way like I kind of think about it. But if you start an agency and you get hired to build the same thing 5 times, then there's probably a SaaS in that. Figuring out exactly where that product is not necessarily super easy. And people sometimes ask why I haven't built my own product. That's a question I get relatively frequently. And the reality is SaaS has a lot of upfront costs in terms of marketing and things like that. And you don't get a lot of customer value upfront in terms of your cost of acquisition is usually quite high per customer. And you're selling people onto relatively small subscriptions. And I personally haven't seen a strong enough recurring problem across several businesses that I can package up into a SaaS. And I've helped other SaaS founders and I've seen the kind of downsides of that business too. It's not to say it's bad, but there's a reason why SaaS gets a lot of venture funding. I think SaaS gets more venture funding than any other industry, or not more than any other industry, but it's one of the industries that is heavily venture funded and venture backed. And the reason is because you need a lot of capital up front most of the time in order to really, really get things going and kind of find good product market fit and have loads of marketing dollars to put into that company. It's really challenging to bootstrap a SaaS because your cash flow is really, really limited. And when you bootstrap, cash flow is your limitation. I think this agency has served me better as a business sandbox to learn about things and things like that. Also, I think I've just come to like the business model a fair bit, but there's pros and cons to anything. It's just that I think a lot of developers don't realize that building a SaaS or whatever, it has a lot more cons than developers pay attention to. Anyway, this is just my opinion. Everybody's free to do what they want. This is just what I've learned from working with a lot of founders and being in the tech space a while. I tried to build a tech product before this agency for about a year. That was really, really tough. We did not have product market fit, and so we didn't go anywhere. I've been running this agency for the past 3 years, and it has been profitable every single time because you get to control your cash flow a lot better. Granted, it's not the biggest business in the world, but it's a lot more steady in many ways. There's different advantages and different disadvantages as well. That's my take on indie hacking. Anyway, feel free to comment any questions. I'm making much more of an effort to reply to as many of those comments as possible. So drop those below.